Hey, you all, Carpetbagger here, coming to you live from the South. More specifically today, we're in St. Augustine, Florida. I drove up from Central Florida this morning, about 2 hours north to St. Augustine. I'm kind of on my way back to the house. I wanted to stop here in St. Augustine and see a few things, and we're going to check out Potter's Wax Museum. See from the sign there, it says America's First Wax Museum. It's opened in 1948 here in St. Augustine. It's gone through several different iterations. I think this is at least the third location, but it's, you know, as the name says, it is a very old school wax museum. I've been to every wax museum in the United States, and this ranks up there. This is one of my favorites. So it kind of has that real old school feel to it. So please follow me. Yeah, I've never come out here to the back of the museum before. I didn't even realize this display was here. You see some of the wax figures here looking out the window. There's like a giant snake there. Oh, okay, there's a sword being stuck in the snake by this figure here. The angels. What angel is that? Who's the angel that stabs the snake with the sword? Looks like we got the Mona Lisa in there, and some disembodied hands playing a cello. This is the inside of the wax figure. It's made by Gems, a wax figure company out of London. And I don't know who this is here. There's a gentleman here wearing a hat. Yeah, very super spooky skeleton right there. You can see through the reflection, but there is a super spooky skeleton. Got a figure here in a suit of armor, and then I don't know who that is there with the freckles. Yeah, they're walking around the back here. Okay, it says the entrance to the wax museum is that way, and look at that, just sitting here looking out onto the streets. We have Maleficent. Excuse me, Thomas Gainsborough. I am looking for the entrance of Potter's Wax Museum. Make a little painting there. Oh, I guess you're the one that painted this blue boy. Now the current location for Potter's Wax Museum is this old 1886 drugstore. It's been repurposed as the Wax Museum. There is a statue of Henry Flagler. I know he's kind of a bigwig here in St. Augustine. The college here is named Flagler College. It says the facts are in the wax, the mystery is in the history. As you can see in here, they actually do have some of the old pharmacy items here. It's kind of a cool old display, the old different medicines and pharmacy gear. So the building is pretty amazing. In addition to being a wax museum, you have this cool old pharmacy. Prosthetic leg there. And as we enter the wax museum, see a little display there on how wax figures are made. The unfinished side right there, and the side here with the makeup, eyes put in, maybe teeth if they would have their mouth open. And this is George Potter. He is the man who created this wax museum. It was a work of passion. In 1949, he opened the wax museum as originally called Potter's International Hall of Fame. And it says George Potter was inspired by visiting Madame Tussauds Wax Museum. And we don't have a figure of Madame Tussauds, but we have a couple of her famous descendants here. This is Louis Tussauds. He lived from 1869 to 1938. He was the great-grandson of Marie Tussauds. And his chain of wax museum is actually owned by the Ripley's company, the Louis Tussauds waxworks that you see around the world. And then there is Josephine Tussauds. She is the great-granddaughter of Marie Tussauds. And it even mentions here that there's a Josephine Tussauds Wax Museum in Hot Springs, Arkansas. Another one of my favorite old school wax museums. And we saw the statue outside here of Henry Flagler. So it does explain a little more here about his backstory. He was an oil baron. It says he was a founding partner in Standard Oil. So back then, that would make you a pretty penny. and then he came down to St. Augustine and built a lot of the buildings and institutions there. Luxurious Ponce de Leon Hotel, Flagler College, and Hotel Alcazar, which is now the Littner Museum. Littner Museum is also a really great attraction. Here is the penny press machine. I think I'll take home a souvenir penny. I'm trying to figure out a way to not lose them before I get home. Trying to figure out a way to organize them. Adam gave me some tips. He was collecting press pennies yesterday at Disney. Gave me some tips on how he keeps them in an album. So I'm maybe going to start doing that. You can actually see the pennies stacked up there, the device that smashes the penny. There's 4 designs to choose from. This is just the logo Potter's Wax Museum. This one's got Elvis. This one's got Jack Sparrow. This one's got Harry Potter. So Harry Potter from Potter's Wax Museum, that's slightly confusing because there actually is no actual connection between Harry Potter and Potter Wax Museum, although there may be a Harry Potter here at Potter's Wax Museum. Let's go ahead and get a penny made. I think, yeah, we'll go with the original recipe there. You can watch it be crushed. So our penny's laying in wait there until we get to the correct spot to smash it. Is it gonna drop? And no? There it goes. You see it just being pressed there. Smashed penny. And oh, there it goes. And there we have it. There you go, Potter's Wax Museum in St. Augustine, Florida. And a preview of some of the things we're going to see here at the Wax Museum. Greatness, brilliance, skill, bravery, art, invention, character, spirit, boldness, courage, talent, devotion, vision, knowledge, wit, exploration, resourcefulness, wisdom, and grace. All this way. Of course, you can't have a Florida Wax Museum without this man here, Mr. Ponce de Leon, the Spanish conquistador, who the legend is came to Florida seeking out the Fountain of Youth. And you can actually visit the Fountain of Youth here in St. Augustine. There's so many fun things to do in St. Augustine, but you can actually visit where he found the Fountain of Youth. You can even drink the water that will supposedly make you live forever. I drank some of it, and I haven't died, so maybe it works. I'm not as familiar with this guy here. This is Pedro Menendez de Aviles. He's giving Ponce there a little bit of the side eye. Oh, this is fun. I don't remember them having these interactive exhibits here. You can try on a conquistador helmet. Just careful, it's heavy. Now let's try this one on. Get the conquistador helmet here. Which way is that? There we go. You buckle it down here. It's really noisy in here. It feels like having your head inside of a trash can. This is Chief Osceola, known for his bravery. It says he is an American folk hero. He's the leader of the Seminole Indians. Apparently he, at one point, stabbed a treaty with a knife and yelled, "The only treaty I will execute is with this." So, a certified hero here. And it says here that he's actually, they offered him a truce over at the Castillo de San Marcos, which is the fort that's actually right across the street from where we are right now. And they said they offered him there, said that they would work out a truce, but it was a trap. They captured him and held him there until and apparently he got sick in his imprisonment and ended up dying. So a very dirty deed done by the U.S. government on Chief Osceola here. And of course, as I traveled to different wax museums around the country, there's some figures that appear in almost every wax museum, and this is one of them. Martin Luther King Jr., very deserving member to any wax museum. And this is a pretty good likeness here of Dr. King. Here we have the famed cowboy Will Rogers. Now, this is something I always constantly have issues with, is I always confuse Roy Rogers and Will Rogers. I'm trying to figure out a way to help me distinguish the two. You can see him doing some rope tricks there. That's pretty amazing. So this Will Rogers is an American cowboy, vaudeville performer, social commentator, motion picture actor, and humorist. And he never met a man he didn't like. So he lived in the era of 1879 to 1935. I think I looked it up. I don't think there's any actual relation between Will Rogers and Roy Rogers. I think it's just, I don't know, it's just a popular last name for famous cowboys. Speaking of people that I'm constantly having a hard time differentiating, I always confuse these two. This is Davy Crockett, and this is Daniel Boone. And just looking at them, I think you can tell why I have a hard time. Why I have a hard time differentiating. You have, they're both dressed in fringe jackets. They both have coonskin caps, and I think both have somewhat similar lives and histories. But you know what? I want to right now. I want to commit to being able to differentiate between Davy Crockett. Now, Davy Crockett, he died at the Alamo. He was elected to the House of Representatives, served in the Tennessee militia during the Creek War, and he killed him a bar when he was only 3. And this is Daniel Boone. Now, Daniel Boone lived kind of the same period, as Davy Crockett, but he is primarily known for expanding. He plotted out different routes, traveled out west, kind of helped forge paths out west. Says he was originally from Pennsylvania, then went out to North Carolina, Kentucky, exploring uncharted territory. So I guess Daniel Boone, more of an explorer, more of a woodsman, explored new and unseen territory. Davy Crockett served in Congress, fought, more of a soldier, fought at the Alamo. So there are some differences. I promise. I think this is the last time I'm going to confuse them. From now on, I'm going to try to keep it straight in my head. So here in the bar where Davy Crockett and Daniel Boone are hanging out in the saloon, we have this cheerful bartender here. He's got the perfect bartender mustache. He's wiping down the counter, getting ready to serve some drinks. You can see in the mirror there's some other patrons to the bar. We have Buffalo Bill Cody. I actually went to the Buffalo Bill Cody Museum out in Colorado, where they have one of his graves. Yeah, he's famous for killing buffalo. That's how he got his start, just massacring buffalo. But later started the Buffalo Bill Wild West show. Kind of helped idealize and create that romantic vision of the Wild West. And then Annie Oakley, who performed in the show, known for her trick shooting. She's got her gun all ready there to pull out some tricky shots. Some trivia here. What Greek woman became an Egyptian queen at the age of 17? I think that's Cleopatra. Yes. Now it says, Potter's Wax Museum welcomes home Pocahontas. So this must be a newer figure put on display, or an older figure put back on display. The legend of Pocahontas there. Of course, somewhat different than the Disney movie. It said she was kind of an in-between the Powhatan Native Americans and the English. Says she negotiated for the release of the Powhatans. Okay, let's see how we do on these quizzes. What English author wrote Oliver Twist and Great Expectations? That is Charles Dickens? Yes. What English king had 6 wives, 2 of which he beheaded? Henry VIII? Henry VIII. I'm getting better at these. Just because I visit so many wax museums. I definitely see they have rearranged this museum quite a bit. The displays have been moved to different areas. There's different figures on display. It looks like we've stumbled here into the war room, the war section. Starting out here with Sam Houston of Texas. And we head into World War II here. This is Charles de Gaulle, the president of France during World War II, and Bernard Montgomery, who was a British field marshal during World War II. We see the ultimate showdown going on here in the World War II section. On this side, you've got the Allies. On this side, you've got the Axis, the evil dictators from World War II. And you know, the Allies, which we were on, we had an evil dictator on our side too, Mr. Joseph Stalin. He, you know, even though he was a horrible person, you know, we needed his help, and you know, he actually was greatly responsible. If you look at it, Russians actually played a huge part in winning World War II. We probably couldn't have done it without them, even though Joseph Stalin's definitely a piece of garbage. But let's look at these villains here. There's Hideki Tojo, the general of the Imperial Japanese Army. Down here, Benito Mussolini, one of the most awful human beings ever lived. The fascist dictator of Italy, and a true thug and bully. And then, you know, pretty much accepted as being the worst man that ever lived, Mr. Adolf Hitler here. My only criticism of this wax figure is that Hitler has blue eyes, which is inaccurate. Hitler may have wished he had blue eyes. Hitler probably would have worn blue contacts if they were available at the time, but he had brown eyes, despite the fact that he believed blue eyes to be superior. And you know what? There's just a lot of bad things I could say about Hitler, but what can I say? He's an absolute piece of crap. I should punch him in the face, but I don't want to damage their wax figure. Here is some of the military figures from the United States. George S. Patton here, Douglas MacArthur, and then our president at the time, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, taking a seat right there. Good job, guys. Good job defeating these fascists. Oh yeah, and I didn't forget about you, Mr. Winston Churchill. And let's not forget about the Civil War here. We have these Confederates here. Looks like this actually maybe the end of the war right here. A surrender going down where General Lee here is surrendering to Ulysses S. Grant and ending this horrible war. Hopefully once and for all. Fingers crossed. Here we have our founding fathers, including Mr. Ben Franklin there. Fun fact, was never president. I don't know, I remember just as a kid, just assuming he had been president, and then being shocked as I got a little bit older and realized he had never been president. I heard someone else say, I forget who said this, but that Ben Franklin is the most presidenty person to have never been president. And we don't have all the presidents in here. We do have George Washington back there. Oh, look how, yeah, he's got that puffy face because his teeth were constantly infected. We saw his dentures recently at the National Museum of Dentistry because he was just constantly in tooth pain his entire life. Maybe tooth pain is what made him a great general. We have some more presidents over here. We have George W. Bush here, along with Dwight D. Eisenhower. So kind of an interesting selection, an interesting smattering of presidents. Lyndon B. Johnson here with his wife, Lady Bird Johnson. I always thought that was an interesting name, Lady Bird, and it is in air quotes, so I'm guessing Lady Bird was her nickname. But yeah, and I guess Hank Hill named his dog Lady Bird after Mrs. Johnson here. Then you have Richard and Pat Nixon and Gerald Ford back there, the only unelected president. How did he make his way into the Wax Museum? That's what I want to know. You could at least have that be the criteria. You have to be elected to be at the Wax Museum. And then FDR, didn't we just see you a second ago? This is FDR. why don't you just right around this corner, you have FDR right there. He's right there as well. Look at that. You can actually see both FDRs at the same time. Isn't that breaking some sort of wax museum etiquette to be able to see both figures at the same time? Kind of like you never see two Mickey Mouses together at Disney. I don't know if you should be able to see two FDRs at once. I don't know. Maybe this is some conspiracy theory here that there was actually two FDRs. Some other presidents over here. John F. Kennedy. And our two most recent former presidents, Barack Obama there, and Donald Trump. They don't have the current president, Joe Biden, here, but maybe they're still working on him. Maybe he's still being waxed together. And Harry S. Truman down here. Fun fact: the S in Harry S. Truman is just an S. It doesn't actually stand for anything. I guess the story is that that there was two people his parents wanted to name him after, and both their names started with S. So instead of making it just one of them, they made it just S. Harry just S. Truman. And here we have some famous writers. There is Mr. William Shakespeare. Looks like he's writing his own biography there. This is Voltaire here, best known work Candide. I guess I don't know all that much about Voltaire here. This is, who's this guy? This is Hans Christian Andersen. Yeah, he wrote The Little Mermaid. And if you read the original Little Mermaid, very different than the Disney version, much more dark and twisted. Here we have Ernest Hemingway, famed lover of cats. I actually love going to his house in Key West because you just get to pet all these six-toed cats there. Here's Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, who wrote the Paul Revere's Ride. And then this here, it says Rudyard Kipling. The picture there looks different, so I'm not sure that this is Rudyard Kipling. Does anyone know who this is? If you know who this is, leave a comment in the comment section. Okay, this is Rudyard Kipling here. And who was that other guy sitting in his spot? Yeah, I guess he's here writing the Jungle Book. Yeah, you see the jungle there behind him. I guess he's imagining he's in the jungle as he writes a story about talking bears. Another cluster of great authors here. In the middle, we got Mark Twain, wrote The Adventures of Tom Sawyer, The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. This is Victor Hugo. Right here, he wrote The Hunchback of Notre Dame and Les Miserables. I think I'm saying that wrong. This is Charles Dickens right here. Didn't know what Charles Dickens looked like. Wrote Christmas Carol, of course, probably his most famous work. And then Robert Stevenson here wrote Treasure Island and Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. This is the music section here. You can see the floating instruments, the tambourines, the flute there, hovering on the ceiling. There's Elvis Presley there, the beloved figure. And you know what? These figures, I will say, these figures do look pretty good. It looks like they have a lot of love and care put into them. You know, they're well cleaned, well maintained. And here are some other famous musicians. Johann Sebastian Bach. Stephen Foster wrote Camptown Races, blah blah blah, doo-da, doo-da. Claude Debussy. I'm not sure. He wrote not familiar with any of his work. George Frederick Handel. I guess I just don't know a lot about classic music. There's Frederick Chopin, and Giuseppe Verdi. There's Frank Liszt there. I actually, for some reason, I know that Frank Liszt was considered to be one of the first rock stars. Lived in the 1811 to 1886, and apparently, like, he was one of the first person to just have a major fandom that would come to his shows and get excited and love him. So Frank Liszt, the first rock star there. And then, oh, look at this. We got this is Ray Charles and Beethoven playing together. I bet each one of them is happy that they finally got a chance to put their piano work together. Finally. It's Rembrandt there, famed Dutch painter Anthony van Dyck. Also, he's a Flemish Baroque painter. No, I do not know what those words mean. And Michelangelo here, one of the artists that they named one of the Ninja Turtles after. Leonardo da Vinci here. And it says genius, painter, sculptor, architect, musician, mathematician, engineer, inventor, anatomist, geologist, cartographer, botanist, and writer. Now, I remember watching a YouTube video where they made an argument that Leonardo da Vinci could legit be considered the greatest genius that ever lived, just because he excelled in so many different fields. Like, you read that list there, like, usually people nowadays are kind of good at maybe one of those things. He was a master in all of them. So I guess one of the only true geniuses, you know, heads and heels above everyone else. If anyone else can think of a bigger genius, leave a comment in the comment section. Okay, and so they do technically have a Potter at Potter's. There is Harry Potter here at Potter's Wax Museum with Dobby, his good friend, the house elf, and his terrifying nemesis, Voldemort. I guess you're not even supposed to say that name, but yeah, the man with no nose. And Johnny Depp as Captain Jack Sparrow. I noticed, like, in Wax Museum, I mentioned figures are in almost every Wax Museum. I think as far as like contemporary modern people, I think Johnny Depp as Jack Sparrow is one of the more common wax figures you'll see. He's in almost every Wax Museum. Oh, I'm about to head into the dark side of St. Augustine. Herman Munster's here. He's warning us, beware. The horrors depicted within are not for the faint of heart. Scenes of mayhem and misfortune from this ancient city's past provoke the senses. Enter at your own prudence. All right, I think I'm going to make the decision to enter at my own prudence. Go through the curtain here and see the oh my gosh, there is mayhem going on in here. There is who is this? Who's stabbing this guy? I'll figure this out. Okay, this is the Huguenot massacre in 1565, and yeah, look at that. That guy stabbing that guy trying to process the fact that he's just been stabbed. Oh, I almost didn't notice this. You see the tree here. You see those feet dangling from the trees. That is an ominous sight right there. We have a whole exhibit within an exhibit here on pirates of St. Augustine. It says St. Augustine twice burned by pirates. You can see the flames rising there. And we have the wall of pirates here. Different pirate faces on this flaming wall. Oh my gosh. This is famed pirate Sir Francis Drake, and apparently one time he burned St. Augustine to the ground. You rascal. I do love how they've incorporated local legends into the Wax Museum. Here's the tale of the missing lovers. Now, this occurred again across the street at Castillo de San Marcos. It says that 2 skeletons were found in the wall, chained together. I guess the backstory being that this was Captain Abella, who was having an affair with Dolores, who was the wife of his colonel. And the two were having an affair until they both vanished, until they turned up as skeletons chained together in the walls of Castillo de San Marcos. Here's the tale of pirate Andrew Ransom. He was sentenced to be executed by the garrote. They tie a rope around his neck and twist it. But during his execution, the rope snapped They did the full execution. They tightened the rope, and it snapped at the last moment. And he was not deceased. So a friar, a monk, a local friar, said that this was a miracle, that God's work had chosen to not execute him. It actually saved him from execution. Instead, he spent some time in prison and was later released. This here is James Oglethorpe. You see his name a lot in this part of the country. Says he actually founded Georgia, so this is the guy that invented Georgia. But he also apparently at one time unleashed a siege onto St. Augustine that was unsuccessful. Talks about the yellow fever epidemic in St. Augustine. You see the grave there of Silas Still, and they would put these bells on the grave, and that was just in case they buried someone alive on accident. So they would have the rope in their coffin, and if they woke up and were like, I'm not dead, this is not good, they could pull that string and ring the bell. If someone heard the bell, they could come running and dig the person up. And I've heard, I don't know if this is true, but I've heard this is where the term dead ringer came from. I remember seeing this before here, and this really stuck with me. The dark research, the hanging of Sim Jackson. Now, Sim Jackson here, he was a bad man. He was a murderer. He killed his wife. But he had an agreement with a doctor to do a scientific study. The study was to see how long a hanged man remains conscious. And so they decided to develop a system where Sim here, after he was hung, agreed to communicate with the doctor via hand signals to show how long he was still alive. And apparently he lasted 14 minutes hanging by his neck. So, yeah, not a pleasant way to go. And a little taste of horror here, where we have Frankenstein, also known as Frankenstein's monster, the creation and son of Dr. Frankenstein. Looks like there's some old wax parts up there in the rafters. Oh, including the xenomorph alien there up in the rafters. Let's take a peek. Who's up there? Oh, look at that. Look at that. Look who that is. That's Annabelle the doll. Here is the creature from the Black Lagoon, and definitely a Florida monster. One of the Universal monster most associated with Florida. He's actually filmed scenes from that movie at some of the different springs around the state of Florida. As we pass around the corner there, none other than Mr. Freddy Krueger coming out of his boiler room with his finger knives. There is the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde head. So it would rotate, and you could see Mr. Hyde on one side, Dr. Jekyll on the other. I notice here it says, "Get your own Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde head." See a sales representative. Is this one for sale? As we come out of the Chamber of Horrors there, we see some non-horrific figures. There's Mr. Michael Jordan there, now playing for the Potters basketball team. And remember, when you're in a wax museum, you don't put your hands all over the figures, you don't touch the figures, you leave Britney alone. This is the Middle Ages room, where we see some of these European monarchs. Looks like they're straight out of Monty Python and the Holy Grail. But here we have Joan of Arc, which is absolutely a fascinating tale. This young French girl that heard voices, that got the entire country of France behind her. Absolutely amazing story. And she was burned at the stake famously. A lot of people say that it was because she was seen as a heretic, that she felt she could talk to God, talk to angels. But there's also evidence that she may have simply been burned at the stake for wearing men's clothing. There is Cleopatra. She was the ruler of Egypt, but we read earlier she was of Greek descent, and said she was also the lover of Julius Caesar. However, when he was assassinated, she became the lover of Mark Antony here, who was a Roman politician. So, yeah, very fascinating woman, Miss Cleopatra here. And I'm pretty sure this section is brand new. This is Science and Discovery. We're greeted at the door by a science ball. Ooh, look at the science ball. Ah, it's electrocuting me. Ah. But here in the science room, okay, no one else is more sciencey than Mr. Albert Einstein himself. We have the astronauts here. Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and the poor third member who doesn't get enough attention, Mr. Michael Collins. Because I guess if you're not first, no one remembers you. There's Wilbur Wright, created one of the first powered aircrafts. Although, where's Orville? Where's Orville at? We have Henry Ford here, the creator of the assembly line, helped to mass manufacture the automobile, and created Greenfield Village out in Michigan, which is a great tourist attraction. See Galileo here in his laboratory studying the stars, his equipment. See, making little models of the moon there. And then Alexander Graham Bell not only invented the telephone, but made the world's first phone call. It'd be a real bummer if you spent all that time inventing the phone and then someone else got to use it first. Marie Curie here, who discovered radiation, and you don't want to touch her because she actually died from radiation poisoning. She's highly toxic. We have Thomas Edison, the inventor of the light bulb, amongst other things. And actually the hero, this guy over here, Henry Ford, who actually captured Edison's last breath in a jar, and you can go see that currently on display at the Henry Ford Museum. George Washington Carver, who revolutionized farming, also often famous for his work in cultivating the peanut. And yeah, it was him working on peanuts that actually helped Enterprise, Alabama, when the boll weevil destroyed their crops. It was the new ingenuity of peanut farming that led to their success. Charles Darwin there, studying this skeleton here, thinking hard about evolution. The mother of modern nursing, Miss Florence Nightingale. And then over here, Louis Pasteur. He invented a vaccine for rabies and also found a way to make milk not as diseased. And to cap off the science room, we have our friends from Star Wars. Mr. Darth Vader there, C-3PO in the back. Got little R2-D2 there, and Mr. Yoda. Here's a man who truly helped shape Florida into what it is now, Mr. Walt Disney there in front of Cinderella Castle. He's not currently hanging out with Cinderella. He's got Snow White there. He's talking to that bird on her hand. Wonder where the dwarves are hanging out at. Yeah, Walt Disney there in his pocket. We got Mr. Steamboat Willie, but guess what, Walt? Guess what? You don't own that anymore. That's mine. That belongs to all of us. You can't keep him. He's ours. Gimme. Just kidding. You can keep him. You can see some heads here in this box. Here's Sleeping Beauty. You can tell because she's got her eyes closed. And Alice from Alice in Wonderland. And another Johnny Depp character, the Mad Hatter. Heading into the wax studio where all the magic is made here. They do have some more figures in here. Some aristocratic figures. Charles I, Queen Victoria. It is Benjamin Disraeli. This is the costuming room in here where the different wax figures are dressed after they're completed. Different wax heads here on display. There is Moses. Moses' head, King Solomon, so some religious figures in here. There is Princess Diana. And again, some of these, I don't know everyone. This is Felix Mendelssohn, he's a German composer. Ludwig von Beethoven. I think there was another Beethoven in the museum. Johannes Brahms, Cardinal Richelieu. Oh, that's King Tutankhamun. That's an interesting one. And then some guy named Moliere. There is Elizabeth I, and many of you pointed out to me, not the mother of Elizabeth II. This is Philip II of Spain and Mary I. Yeah, there is a lot of European monarchy in here. I think in the old wax museums, I think it was very popular to have a lot of the old European monarchy. Yeah, Henry VIII. He's a figure you see pop up a lot, especially in the older wax museums. You actually look back here into the wax studio. You can see the wax heads there along the counter. The process of creating these wax figures. You can see Tom Sawyer and Huck Finn up there on the shelf. I think they were on display as full body figures last time I was here. Yeah, you see the body there labeled Huck Finn. And back there you can see the mold room, the different molds. You can feel the wax. Yeah, it does, basically feels like, a candle, like you're touching a candle. You're not normally supposed to touch the figures, but what was that? Is that Angelina Jolie? You'll recognize those lips. Gotta check out these heads here. Up above the studio, it's Andrew Johnson, it's Teddy Roosevelt in the middle, Benjamin Franklin, Spear, Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, George Washington. A lot of the president heads here. Charlemagne, lady-in-waiting there. Winston Churchill, another Charles de Gaulle. So some of these are, I guess, where they had duplicates. Jefferson Davis, a Native American there that says unknown. John C. Calhoun. There is Abraham from the Bible. I didn't see Abraham Lincoln here though. That's interesting. He's usually see Abe in a wax museum. Oh, there's Bonaparte and his wife Josephine. And as we say goodbye to the wax museum, we also say goodbye to George Costanza here, as well as Cosmo Kramer, and the museum with a visit with the characters of Seinfeld, and then the opinion cards here handed out by wax hands, and the tip box. So thank you for joining me here today at Potter's Wax Museum, the oldest wax museum here in the United States, and it looks great. I was surprised how much it changed, how much it moved around, and they really do a good job in there of keeping the figures looking good. You go to different wax museums, there's different levels of care that go into the wax figures. These are very, very old figures, but they look very fresh. The clothes are clean, the exhibits look great, and I talked to one of the employees here. They're an active maker of wax figures. They do make wax figures not only for their own museum, but for other attractions as well. So that's really amazing. Apparently they did the Prohibition Museum in Savannah, which is another museum that I love. So great time here at Potter's. Definitely, if you're in St. Augustine, take the time to check this out, because this is not only as a piece of history, but just a great all-round wax museum. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you do like these videos, please subscribe. I travel around the country, I film roadside attractions, amusement parks, museums, haunted houses, and other fun, random stuff. If you'd like to help support the channel, consider contributing to Patreon. Oh look, there's a street train. We've got a street train going by. Where was I at? This guy's giving a tour here. What was I saying? Travel around, please subscribe. If you want to help out the channel, consider contributing to Patreon. $3 or more, we'll get you a postcard once a month. This little dog peeking out of the window there. Also Patreon, also Cameo. All that information is in the description, and all that helps keep this train on the track, this boat in the water, and this dirigible in the air. Until next time, my friends, this one's in the bag.